And
I've been
unmasked.
unmasked.
You're actually the first other podcaster that I've had on here. So
Nice.
usually it's like people from different types of businesses and just different arrays of businesses. You're the first one where your primary business, at least that I know of, is podcasting.
Yeah.
So it's kind of, and your podcast, I haven't fully listened to a whole lot of it, but it seems like you guys talk about a lot of really cool stuff on there.
Yeah.
So to start off, I like to kind of get to know you through what you kind of say about yourself.
Mm-hmm.
So with that being said, I want you to introduce yourself to those who don't know who you are, and whatever accolades you want to say, whatever accomplishments, kind of like as if you're on an award show, like at the Grammys or something. You know how they say like, oh, Grammy-winning award, Oscar-winning this person.
Mm-hmm.
Whatever you want to, however you want to describe yourself, that's how I want you to introduce yourself.
Okay. My name's Shaquille. I run the Kickin Ass Taking Names podcast. 3-year resident of Arizona. Been a part of when I first came out here, I was hanging out with the Arizona entrepreneur community. Before that, I used to be in Seattle, Washington. Grew up in Seattle. Was part of the Seattle mentoring and networking community. That's another just community of entrepreneurs. I've always been passionate about helping other entrepreneurs. One of my first dreams when I was a kid was to be a motivational speaker. So the podcast is kind of like the segue into my larger goals, which are like to inspire people.
Okay.
And it's incredible. What happened was, I had run into Evan Carmichael, and I had him on the podcast, and I was a huge fan of his when I was young, and I grew up watching his content. But he started so long ago that I probably didn't watch his content in the past few years. So when I did run into him, I knew his face, but I didn't remember his name.
Gotcha.
That was like a pretty embarrassing thing for the moment, but he was like super polite and one of the nicest guys you'll ever meet. And when I got him on, that kind of like turned this small podcast idea into like, I really do need to believe, because I believe in myself, and that's what he does, Believe Nation.
Yeah.
And that's what pushed me into like what I'm doing today, which is just building a media company around the podcast, because I'm passionate about inspiring others and educating others and putting more positive content out there. Because I think everybody's susceptible to growing up, and however they grow up, they're susceptible to like things that they're challenged with in their life, and then as they get older and they're around the right people and they learn the right things, they can mold and shape into the people they really are truly meant to be. But as far as like my background, or what, like, do you want to know my
However you want to like introduce yourself to people, like for those who just know nothing about you, who you are. Obviously, we don't have Ryan Reynolds on here that everyone's like, oh, he's an actor. I know exactly who he is. I know you have a pretty decent following, but I don't know how many of my following is familiar with who you are. So that's
Right.
It's kind of just something an introduction of who you are.
Right. As far as like to everybody else, I grew up in Seattle. I've always been like a huge fan of UFC, martial arts. So like half of my life has been dedicated to training, and then the other half was always in business. My father's a restaurant owner. I come from that business background, at least from my family. So for me, it's just living up to that name and to establish myself and grow and help other entrepreneurs. So
Nice.
again, yeah, like all about just building community. I would actually like to be someone who builds something in Arizona with content creators. I'd like to actually start this. I was at Scottsdale Hangar 1 today to look at a hangar that I'm talking to a couple of the big guys in Arizona that I know. I call them the big guys. 'Cause they're the mover and shakers in the area.
Yeah.
I've learned so much from networking, and these guys, they all pull strings in the area, and so I've been lucky enough to be around them and like we're talking about really bringing together all the communities.
Yeah.
And creating like a mega event for Phoenix and making Phoenix like put Phoenix on the map. So it's super early, but you guys will see some videos, and it's getting everything I'm doing is just getting started. I'm busy now because I'm really going like hard into all this stuff. Like there's so
incredible.
much that's not there yet. So
yeah, and I definitely know Arizona for sure needs something like that. There's a boom in the industry here in Arizona that I've been seeing because I've only been here for about 3 years as well, actually.
Yeah, where'd you move from?
Flagstaff.
Nice.
So still Arizona native, but people don't realize of how different Flagstaff is from Phoenix, and it's a whole new environment, whole new community.
It's
whole
colder
new,
up there, right?
Very. Oh yeah, it's one of the snowiest cities in America.
Really? Wow.
Yeah. So coming down here, it felt like I was moving out of state to somewhere completely different. But since moving down here and getting into different industries, I've gotten to learn of how much certain industries are growing and stuff. Because when I was first here, I don't know if I just wasn't involved in those industries enough to see them, but it appears as if those industries are growing hardcore, and it's an incredible sight to see. We're getting different types of people and different businesses that we didn't get to see before, and that's awesome that you're doing something like that. There's not a lot of people that I feel have the best intentions behind the best things. And so it's incredible to see that you're doing that.
Yeah. Like you'll hear about it, I guess, but my whole philosophy is like you help, kind of like the Jim Rohn, you help enough people, other people get what they want, then in return you'll get what you want.
Absolutely. So before all this, you sent me a YouTube video, and I know who that I've seen his YouTube videos before. It was the most craziest thing to see someone that big who's doing the stuff in Arizona, and that was one of the first things I was like, holy shit, we have people that are that big and have that big of an audience here in Arizona.
Yeah.
What was the purpose behind sending me that video?
I just wanted to give you more content so you could have context. You could ask if you wanted more questions, you know?
Yeah, okay.
But that was like a video we did. It's actually a good one. We did a video on YouTube with That Was Epic. It was a leaf blower prank.
Yeah.
We, for the most part, we kept it fairly like in the like an open area, whatever.
Yeah.
We went through one area where he wanted to like annoy the security so we can do like a joke, but it wasn't like anybody was like, hurt or whatever. But like pretty much we were running through with leaf blowers, and it was just funny.
There was 15 people with leaf blowers. It looked
Yeah.
like 15 plus one, or was it one? Was one?
I
of the
think
15?
it was Juan and then us 15. Yeah.
Okay. So were you one of the guys that was holding one of the leaf blowers?
Yeah, you could see. It's
Okay.
hilarious.
Okay, so you were in the video then as part of his
Yeah.
little army of walking. That was the most bizarre thing.
Yeah.
Like, I don't understand how a concept like that just comes to life. It's like waking up one day, like, you know what? For a video today, let's just buy as many leaf blowers as a certain store has and just walk around town. Like, there's no weird audio. There's no funny, like, bits or anything. Like, there's no way, like, it can be staged because there's not, like, person A is doing this to person B, and we have to get a reaction out of person B, and like a whole like scripted type of thing. It's literally just people walking around. My favorite thing was the whole thing with like the no inglés.
Yeah.
When they kept saying that, it sounded like the birds from Nemo, and it was like no inglés, no inglés, no inglés. And I was just like, this literally is just like a flock of birds that's coming.
Honestly, when I did that video, I felt kind of nervous because I'm like, I just like don't do anything like that crazy usually.
Yeah.
Unless I've like drank or something, but I normally don't do that. So like when I was there, I was like, are we gonna get in trouble? I don't want to get like a ticket or something like that, like a noise citation.
Was this something that you were paid to do as part of the video, or was it just like...
Yeah, I mean, he helped, he gave everybody like money for doing the video. It wasn't like, like it wasn't like all the other videos where he gives like 5,000, but I mean like it was cool because he was just like, yeah, everybody, thanks for your time, whatever. So I still want to interview him. Like, Juan, that was epic.
Okay, so when you sent that to me, I thought that was like he was part of your team or you were part of his team.
No, he does videos with people, and he'll post on his page like, I need 15 people or 10 people or whatever.
Gotcha. Okay. Yeah, because I've seen him not in person, but I've seen his videos and stuff, and it was only until I saw him in Tempe on University or whatever.
Yeah, Mill and stuff.
On Mill. and he was doing different stuff like paying people's rent or just randomly doing this. And someone like that, I feel like would be very interesting to interview because of the fact of like
trust me, I've been working on it.
Yeah, is it hard to book someone that big?
Yeah, it's definitely just they're in town, but they don't. It's not the easiest to bring in a guest that's pretty established. Like you've gotta like either one, like build a rapport with them, or two, you've got to offer something that they want.
Right.
And I think that I kind of use my rapport building skills, and then I try to give them as much as I can of what they want. Obviously, somebody wants like a $10,000 fee, like I can't just afford that, but I can definitely do my best to slingshot myself around people that they know, and work my way in their network where they'll be like, okay, like building rapport through people they know, that I know they know, stuff like that. I mean, it's just like, I think it's a skill like anything else.
Oh, absolutely.
Networking is a skill, and so I think I've been pretty good at networking to get some of the guests I've had. Because if you look at like a lot of my guests like it's not rare to see any of my guests have less than $500,000.
Yeah, I was noticing that. I was kind of going through your page and kind of seeing who you've had on, and I mean, there's not a whole lot of them that I know. That's like
they're not like
celebrity,
super celebrity, but
they have a really good following.
Yeah,
they have their own fan base type of deal. Do you ever pay for guests to be on, or is it all just like?
No, everything's been organic.
Yeah.
I haven't needed to pay. I mean, I guess like I would say I'm not like against it, but like my goal is not to like make it a thing where I'm gonna pay one person over another. It's kind of more of a, I want to put out a story, and like if you're open to it, it's like kind of similar to anybody else. Like if you want to get the content, I can do the best I can to promote it. Yeah. But my goal, like I appreciate everybody, and I'm definitely gonna do some sort of big event for them and stuff in the future.
That'd be awesome. Yeah, I honestly, I have a very similar philosophy. When I was first getting into this, I used to own a company that it was like pretty much like event planning and promoting and stuff. So I'd get talent from LA or New York or whatever, like the celebrities, pay their booking fee, and then have them come out, do a concert, that kind of stuff. Classic 19-year-old entrepreneur bullshit that you'll see like in Tempe or whatever these days. But through that, I was starting this podcast, and I was like, shit, how am I going to pay for some of these bigger guys to come out? Because obviously that's one of the best ways to get growth to your channel is by having like all those podcasts that you see that have what seems to be overnight growth is because they have people like Drake on, or have like these
Bobby girl.
Yeah, that Bobby girl. Like she blew up out of nowhere, but it's not because necessarily her. Like she herself is not famous, but the guests that she have, like it's about the guests that you have on. I notice, unless you yourself are famous, and it's like Johnny Depp himself starts a podcast. Yeah, people are going to be tuning into that for Johnny Depp because he himself has a fan base. But if you have the guests on, they have their own fan base. That's one of the biggest ways. And I've reached out to a couple people, and one of them did like ask for like a fee or something for speaking. I'm like, this isn't necessarily advertising thing. Yeah, I'm not here to just advertise you. I'm here to learn about you and give the audience a platform, everybody, an insight of who you are. You can say whatever you want and promote yourself however you want, but I'm not interested in promoting your next tour or promoting this or promoting that. I'm interested in the story of the person who's sitting next to me,
Yeah, I mean, if they want to promote something, like for example, one person I'm working on, I'll say it openly because right now it's just like an idea. Yeah. But I'm working on Juicy J because Juicy J is working on he just released his book. Yeah. So for example, for him, like I know, like I've got photos of me going to his concerts back in the day. I've been a fan of his for a long time. It's like that's somebody I'm genuinely interested in, and now I put him on my target, and I go, okay, I got a target. Yeah. And like I'm gonna definitely interview him one day. Like that's how I feel, and I know that there's like obviously this, that, fees, and the other, but there's ways to do things where I know when I started, I was like, okay, I have to look a certain way and have like a certain design for this in order to attract these guests. So I have to make sure that this is what they want. Cause like they might go to Marshalls or JCPenney or JC Max to buy a coat.
Right.
But if you're Juicy J, you're preferably going to go to like Louis Vuitton and Gucci and Prada.
Right.
So I'm like, okay, do I have to become like that of the podcast world? So I'm thinking like maybe I have to become the Louis Vuitton, Gucci, Prada of the podcast world, and maybe I have to establish myself as that style and that way. And that's kind of been the goal ever since. And right now I'm building my personal brand. I haven't actually been focused on the podcast as hardcore the last 2 months. I do have some really good guests scheduled coming soon. And then I've got some new promo strategies that I'm releasing, as well as like a lot of just personal branding content. But like since I've been working that side, because I realize that this can move quick, and I need to be established. I need to establish where I want to be when this could be a much bigger thing. So I know I have to establish my brand, the way that I portray myself.
Right.
Because of course it's about authenticity, but it's also about who do I want others to know that I am in terms of like my future, where I'm going. Because like I'm not really a fan of the past. I'm a fan of the future. I focus on the future. I like to only, like, my brain thinks in the future. I think this is why I have like some kind of short-term memory loss, because I think I'm always focused on the future so much that I just don't think about the past enough, and I don't rewire that memory. It's like memorizing something when you study.
Right.
But the way that my brain works, I'm just like, okay, that's not, is it in the future? No. Okay, I'm focused on the future plan. So who I am in the future is also what I'm focused on,
With that future thinking, do you ever have difficulty being present then, of being in the now? Because I'm very similar. I'm always thinking very far into the future. Where is this career going to take me? I don't want to do something now unless I can see it on the line of trajectory of what I want to do in the future. If it's not going to contribute to that in some way, I don't want to do it. I'm very much like, what is that end goal? What is the thing I'm shooting for? But with that, it also makes it hard for me to enjoy the now, enjoy what's happening around me. I'm always thinking about the next thing.
I think that might be a root of why I'm a highly anxious person, but I think that the anxiety and the anxiousness is also a form of excitement. So I don't see it as like a detriment to my life. Like I see it as like a bonus. Like I've got all this energy, like I'm a twitchy person. You'll see it in a lot of like videos. I'm always dehydrated because I'm not used to Arizona. That's why I'm always dehydrated. But I'm tired all the time because I train super hard.
Yeah.
I wake up. Either I'll wake up early or I'll wake up late, but then I'll stay up late, and then I'll wake up early. So it's like probably more synchronicity needs to be there. Definitely need to do more energy management. But I'm tired a lot because I feel like I have this weird thing where I'm like, am I lazy or am I just tired because I went so hard? And then I go super, super hard and I don't stop, and I do a lot of stuff, and then I'm tired for a long time. And I think that, on top of a lot of guys, for example, that I want to like fight, and I don't know if I'm going to go pro, but amateur.
Yeah.
A lot of guys I know that train, they do, like, that's all they do. And then they work like a job, but that job is not like, it's not like they're running a business. But if you run a business, you're starting a business, you're starting this, you're doing that, you're talking to your team and doing this and that. Because I've already like built a business, and I kind of am out of that business now. But when you do that kind of stuff, you do multiple things. It's like takes a lot of energy, and then you only have so many hours in the day, so much energy, and you have to focus in on what you want to get forward. So when I started to do this stuff, not only did my last business kind of like fade away because I just was like not interested in it anymore, but also I didn't see it serve me where I was going. I was like, I need to transform like my whole lifestyle, who I am and where I'm going.
Right.
And that's why I started this thing, and I'm moving this direction. And then as far as energy management, like running a business and training, like I got to be more careful about that because it's easy to burn yourself out. But when I interviewed Eric Anders, UFC fighter, he's on Joe Rogan's podcast, and when I interviewed him, I made sure I trained super hard for that interview.
Really?
Yeah, because I was going to interview him, and I wanted to be in the same mindset. So I said, I'm going to train super hard so that when he's tired, I'm tired. So when we're both sitting across from each other, I have to push and fight, just like he has to push and fight to get through the interview. And I had to fight in that interview to to get the answers that I did, because I knew he was tired, because he had a fight in 6 weeks. He was fighting Mark Barrialt, and he lost that fight. But he still did, like, he still did his thing. He still fought. Like, congratulations to him. He's still a UFC fighter.
Right.
But I had to, like, put myself in that sort of like a method actor. I wanted to be in that, his shoes, and I could do a better job of preparing. I've had a podcast episode where I was absolutely, like, I felt like I tanked it. And what did I do? I'm getting it edited to a certain degree where I'm like, I don't know if I really want to, like, add everything, and, like, I'm trying to figure it out, but I'm like, oh, how authentic is that? So I'm rewatching it to see, like, how do I really push this? Like, I just put it out, and I luckily I had that guest also come out a second time, and it was awesome, because it's a big, like, they're big as far as social media. They're like one of the biggest guests I have, and they were just saying in town again, and they were really interested in doing, because I had people message me about this particular guest, which shorts are coming out right now about it more, and a lot of people, there's like a lot of controversy around. Like,
really?
Yeah, because he's a dog trainer, and he's got a lot of controversy around it. But, like, I know, like, I've seen it, and I believe in what he does, right?
Yeah.
But, like, other people might see it, and they're like, oh, I don't know. But it's like, it depends on I think everybody's got, like, opinions online, so.
You can't please everyone.
Yeah.
That's one of the toughest things.
For putting this out, yeah. That's what
Yeah. For especially something that you're putting on the internet, for something that you're putting out to the public, no matter what, like, and it's hard for someone like me. I'm a people pleaser. That's my tendency. I love making as many people in a room or as many people in my audience as happy as possible. But unfortunately, that's not a possibility, and it's a very hard possibility sometimes to cope with. But especially with an online thing like a podcast or a talk show or really any type of thing that's on the internet, you cannot make everybody happy.
Yeah, that'll still help you, though.
Yeah. You just have to focus on what you are truly passionate about. And I feel like if you are authentic and you're passionate and you have your own energy into it, all the backlash and controversy and stuff, it doesn't matter. It's like, cool, you have your opinion. I respect that you have your opinion that differs from mine. I'm going to continue doing my thing because you also don't know this guest like I do. You haven't had the conversations with this guest like I have.
Yeah.
You don't know his brain. You haven't seen the DMs. You haven't seen this. You haven't talked to his team. You don't know the full story. You've seen what the internet likes to put out there and what the internet likes to blow up. And the internet tends to blow up the more negative things rather than the positive things, unfortunately.
Yeah.
So with something like dog training, yes, there's a lot of controversy around that kind of stuff, especially with different methods and all that. And I don't know this person. I don't know what methods they do. Obviously, dogs do have to get trained, and there are good ways of doing it. There also are bad ways of doing it. And there's that controversial line sometimes that you have to play around with a little bit. But when you have, I feel like it's best to get it from the best kind of source, someone who has experience in it. So in a situation like that, just learning about, like, okay, what's the best way of doing this? Or what kind of research have you done into your methods of doing this type of stuff? So education is the best form that you can rely off of in that aspect.
Yep.
When you said that you had to train for the interview with the UFC fighter, did you mean like you physically trained?
Physically trained, yeah.
Okay. Wow. And was that like different than your typical training because you're a fighter now, correct?
Yeah. No, I just pushed myself harder, like, when I was going to interview him. Like, there's certain milestones. I knew, like, Eric was somebody I was for sure going to get, and I worked on it. I also got lucky because I met him on the rooftop of my old apartment, and he was staying there during the UFC Glendale, and then I started training. He told me to go train at Fight Ready, so I went to go train at Fight Ready, and I saw him there, and then we got to know each other and stuff like that. I wouldn't say, like, we're, like, close friends or anything,
right.
But, like, we're acquaintances and stuff, and he's a nice guy. I wouldn't say anything bad about him. He's doing his thing. He's a cool guy. But people are busy, so, like, you can get to know somebody, but you still have to respect their time. So,
oh, absolutely.
like, when you work with these big guests, it's like you want to get to know them better, and you want to like be friendly with them, and you want to support them. So what I do is I support from a distance, and I offer any value I can in the future, because, like, they help me, so I'm gonna help them. So
right.
I have to find out how, where, like, what ways. But for sure, because I don't expect myself to be like I've only been doing this for like 8-9 months. So
Really?
yeah. So like I don't expect myself to be in the same place for very long. Because
Yeah.
like I'm already looking at like other cities and like expanding and
Wow.
mobile team, and I've already got interviews that I can't mention, but they're pretty big. Like hopefully in the other cities.
Wow.
And there's stuff that I am expecting to happen, praying for it to happen, but expecting to happen because I don't think it's like I don't think it's like a wishful thinking thing. I think it's like you can work your way to something.
Yeah.
And I owe people who've helped me so far, like for that, like the podcast, the people I've had on so far, I owe them for sure because they like they believed in me, and that's like that means a lot to me.
Yeah. No, I relate to that a lot. I've had some people that I reached out to just on a whim. I was like, there's no way in hell that this person's going to, like, they
Yeah.
have a following of literally hundreds of times larger than mine. I'm like,
Yeah.
there's no way in hell, but somehow they do reach, or they do get back to me. I'm like, holy shit,
Mm-hmm.
this is, but I think it also depends on your approach to them.
Yeah.
With somebody that is that big, obviously you have to, like you said, you have to provide your own value. If I was a podcast that was just starting out and I didn't have any content out, and I was like, hey, do you want to be on? You have to make yourself a serious offer. You have to make yourself seem like a serious offer. There's 1,000,001 people that probably want to have them on. But luckily for me, I have examples of what I do on it. I might not be the biggest podcast on Instagram or on Spotify or anything, but I have content out. If you want to see what it looks like to be on my podcast, if you want to see what it sounds like or anything, you can do it.
Yeah.
And that's how you know how serious I am. I might not have the following to back it up and to be able to offer each person advertising of like, oh, you'll have a guarantee of a couple 100,000 people listening to this episode. But there is going to be production behind it. It is going to be something serious. It's not just going to be some bullshit type of, okay,
And
we'll sit down.
you'll get better over time. Like what episode is this one?
So this one, I'm not entirely sure. So what I do is I record multiple per week, but I only release one per week. So right now I'm probably 10 to 15 episodes ahead. And so I just released episode 17, I believe.
Okay.
But I have enough episodes to where this is probably in the 20s at least.
Yeah.
But I did it that way just in case like there are some dry weeks to where I don't have anybody or I have some work that happens where I'm not able to do anything.
Yeah,
or
I have to
happens.
I'm doing it like in seasons because I've also got like there's also a budget that's required.
Right.
Like some of the stuff that I do. Shout out to AZ Pod Studio. They're like the ones that help me a lot with all the production value.
Okay.
Not the like editing stuff. They do provide editing. I do handle that myself, but they do all the filming. They like they're a really good team. So
yeah, I think that's the next couple investments that I have for this podcast is one, camera stuff. Right now, it doesn't look the best because it's on an iPhone. There's nothing wrong with iPhones.
Yeah.
They do record pretty good. I can't do 4K though with this. I have to do 1080 because the storage required to film an hour long podcast in 4K. That's going to be at least like 20, 30, 40 gigabytes worth of data, and I don't have storage capacity.
Your steps are camera,
audio,
and microphones.
Yeah, and then studio space.
And then eventually get the studio space that you want to get.
But this is something that's completely built from the ground up. No sponsors, no outside injection of funds or anything. Like everything that happened here is because I was just like, you know what? I'm not going to wait until I have $20,000 to pour into a podcast. I'm going to start it now, build along the way, and then those who go along with me through the journey of seeing where I came from versus where I'm at, they'll get to see like, oh yeah, he didn't start with like $100,000 podcast with like the best of the best of this, the best of the best of that.
Yeah.
And hopefully when I do get to that point to where I do have better equipment stuff, I'll be that
honestly,
much more trained.
You're going to get the skills because I've had the first, I would say the first 7 episodes were rough. And like,
yes.
I had a tough time. Now, like I'm only in episode 16, 17.
Okay.
I'm not even that far, but it's been 9 months. But like my style and what I'm doing. It's so unique to what I'm doing.
Yeah.
And it takes like I'm putting a lot more effort in each. And I've got like some things lined up though. Like there's definitely going to be we're going to definitely hit the ground running here soon again. But I'm setting things up in a different way now, like what I've learned in the last 8-9 months, things that I need to do differently. There's also some new strategies I'm looking at, which I have like a friend who's blown up YouTube videos to 500,000 organically because he knows these strategies. Yeah, I can try to give you some like resources of how to do it.
Yeah,
but I don't know how to right now, so I have to.
Yeah, no, I'm not
learn it first.
Yeah, I just honestly like I didn't bring you on here because of anything other than the fact of I love what you do. You have a podcast, it's growing. You say you've only been at it for 8 or 9 months, and I've seen the growth that it's had. And it's another market that I love to kind of get insight from other people in this similar market. Mm-hmm. What made you originally start a podcast or want to start it? Because you said that you're a fighter for one. And then you mentioned another business. So actually, I'll save that question for the second one, but it was kind of burning in my brain. What was the first business that you said that you were in that kind of just like fizzled out?
Yeah, so I used to do, and I still do it, but I used to do outsourced sales for companies. So I learned how to do, I started with, I worked in a boiler room. We did hundreds of calls a day. As an amateur new rep, 3 weeks in, like I hit a floor record and beat everybody on my training team and was on the top even with like 100 other salespeople.
Wow.
So I got a really big ego from that, really young. And that probably wasn't the best ego, but it did. I mean, obviously I knew I could perform.
Yeah.
So eventually I got into selling insurance, did that for a year and a half. Then I turned one of my last insurance job into my first client to do marketing. And I started a marketing company, not like social media marketing, which I'm doing a little bit more style now.
Yeah.
But I originally started with doing a like telemarketing, and essentially I started doing like email marketing and like just large volume of calls, emails, etc. to help these companies get deals. So we'd contact other small businesses, and so I ended up working with I started a Fiverr profile, and the Fiverr profile, I still have my old YouTube channel on Capture More, and that was just tips and tricks on like if you're going to be a freelancer, how to get started, make some money online. Like I still believe in all that stuff. I still love it.
Yeah.
I still am involved in high ticket closing. Like that's the kind of thing I'm doing more now. Like, on the side, I do high ticket closing. I work for these, people who have already built in their leads. They've already handled the sale, everything except for the final sale. Mm-hmm. They get somebody who jumps on a Zoom call with me, and I use the one thing that I play to my strengths. Right, my strength is that I feel like my strength is my voice.
Yeah. So
I play to that. That's in sales, podcasting, networking, like media. That's why I do what I do. Like I'm gonna play to what I know the best.
Right.
And so being starting back in like 2018. 2019, mm-hmm. I went through 2017, 2018, I went through a lot of personal development, got rid of like a lot of like resentment because I was an angry kid. Yeah. And then turned into like inspiration, started the business, left like working for everybody else, but like struggled for years, like just like, first year, like 20K, second year, like 40,000, like third year, like pretty much third year was like about like a $75,000 a year. But like from home working part-time like sometimes.
Yeah.
So it was cool. Unfortunately, a lot of my leads were coming in from these like freelancer websites, and I used to get 10,000 impressions, and I get like 500 now.
Yeah.
And I just have my profile still up. Like I'm not gonna like delete them. But those are like the things I built my marketing online, and I realized because I put up a video on that site, got 10,000 impressions and started getting business. And I said, wait a second, this is the same as advertising, but in the real world, it's like to everybody. And then instead of getting like a couple deals a month, I can get like 100 deals a month. And then I can sell to myself because I don't need to like I don't need to work for anybody else. So like that's why I started to like, I first was like, let me do telemarketing, let me hire people to help other companies sell. To then eventually I was like, let me learn email marketing so I can get the leads for myself, so I can email other businesses, so I can just sell to other businesses myself. And then I could hire my own call team to like help me push the leads to the final destination, which is, you know, my final sale where I'm on a call with them. And then I said, you know what, like this is also still like kind of like a carrot and a stick method or whatever you want to call it.
Yeah.
It wasn't as efficient. I was like, let me become a media house. And then with this media, I can control what I want to do because I control my destiny and control that, and I can use it for whatever benefits. Like, and that's like my business mindset behind it. Like there was different motivations from the podcast, but the reason why I wanted to be in media, the reason why I wanted to do YouTube years ago, that I've always been like, because I've always known, I was like, if I go online and I start really putting myself out there, like I honestly think I'll do really well.
Yeah.
So that's what I've been just like in that direction. So that's what got me to this, like, okay, as a business aspect, because your business has to survive. You can't just like do something and then not make any money.
Right.
But the first dollar that I made, that's not negative from the podcast, because I'm like negative. The first dollar I actually made was this last episode that I did, where I got paid. And the advertisements not in the podcast. They wanted me to send them just like it's called UGC, user generated content, where I just sent them the video of like me and somebody else talking back and forth. I give them the edits, and it looks like it was in the podcast. But I guess I'm going to be in some ads in Sweden or like Netherlands.
Oh wow.
But it was for some AI Spotify like podcast app, and they wanted to like say like, hey, if you have, you know, blah blah blah, and so this company called Soars.com paid me to do that. So maybe you could reach out to them.
Yeah. Is that?
But it was like not a lot of money. It was like $250.
Is that your first sponsor?
That was my first sponsor.
Really?
Yeah.
Okay.
And I'm not like chasing after sponsors. Yeah. Like the goal is not to make money from the podcast.
Yeah.
The goal is to have the podcast be the best it can be.
Yeah.
And then everything else I'm doing outside the podcast supports the podcast.
Yeah.
I used to think the other way around, and it's not a fun way to, like, you're not going to grow like that. If you think that you're going to grow the podcast and make money, like, dude, that's like 3 years, 5 years in. Like, if you want to make money, you make money other ways, and then the podcast supports your business.
Yeah. It's the passion.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think that's what keeps it alive, and that's what keeps it like fresh, like clean. Like it's the
keeps
proper
the fire going.
Yeah. That's what keeps it like an actual podcast. That's like what it's meant to be.
Yeah. I know that because I'm using that like Spotify podcasters or like whatever it is. Like it used to be Anchor, but now it's Spotify for podcasters thing. And they have this thing to where if you reach a certain milestone, you're eligible for sponsorships. I was chasing that down, not even like, oh, I want to get a sponsorship. I was like, I just want to get this milestone. I just want to be able to tell myself that I've been able to reach that milestone. I got it, and I was eligible for my first thing. And then like I was reading it over, and I'm like, this would be cool. But I'm like, what's the point of even doing it right now, though? I don't have enough of an audience for it to matter to put in a sponsorship. I don't. Like, unless you're consistently hitting a certain number, it's not worth it to have a sponsor. Like, I personally feel unless you're getting a constant at least 100 plays per episode or more or along that to where you have a wide audience, it's not even worth it to include sponsors or advertisements or anything. You just need to get your stuff better and better and better because that's how you lose more people.
Yeah.
It's those podcasts that aren't ready for the sponsors that take them on, and it's like a $10 advertisement because it's to 50 people, and they're like, I'm not going to pay thousands of dollars for you to speak of my brand to 5 people, to 50 people.
And honestly, at the end of the day, you don't need any sponsors if you create your own product.
Yeah,
you can sponsor yourself. Like this podcast is sponsored by my company X, Y, and Z clothing or whatever. And then that's you get sales off your own like stuff. I mean, it may not be the highest converting, depends on your audience, depends on your engagement.
Yeah.
But if you can get your following who love you and trust you, and you give them something that they probably are already looking for as well, now you're gonna have a high conversion rate of people who are gonna buy from you.
Right. So what do you consider is your kind of quote unquote full-time day job at this moment? Because I thought at first the podcast was like you were at like Joe Rogan status to where this is your job. This is your full blown like career type of thing.
No, so I do two things. I do media and I do high ticket closing.
Okay.
So high ticket closing for people that I've connected with that have products already, and I essentially jump on calls and help them with sales calls.
Gotcha.
And then I also do media production. So that's like the side of the business that I feel like is going to do really well.
Yeah.
Pretty quickly. So I'm gearing up. Like I'm getting my teams and everything ready, because like you said, Phoenix is going to grow and blow up, and that's what I'm going to do is like grow that. As Phoenix is growing, I'm going to grow as well. My business is going to grow as well.
That's awesome. Okay. So you pretty much are still an entrepreneur in that sense to where you still work for yourself.
Yeah. I mean, I'm working for other people when it comes to, but it's commission only. So
Right.
I don't get paid unless I work. I don't get but I've always been able to rely on myself for sales.
Yeah.
And I could save myself if I'm in a pickle, because networking, knowing the right people, or just knowing how to talk and being in sales for over 10 years, like I can, 28, I started sales when I was 18.
Really?
So I've been doing it for a long time.
I know a lot of people, when I say that I've started a podcast, the amount of people that have told me like, oh, I've been wanting to start a podcast, or I've been thinking about starting a podcast and all this kind of stuff. While it is one of the most rewarding and amazing things I've ever decided to do, it's also one of the most tedious things I've ever decided to do. It's one of the most difficult.
It's gut-wrenching.
Yes.
For sure. I think the hardest part for me is getting ready and being on the camera. But once you get on the camera, and you're 10 minutes in, it's like smooth. I
was actually going to ask, what is the most tedious part of the whole process for you? Because you said that you do listen to your own episodes, right?
Try to.
Yeah.
Sometimes it's like, sometimes you don't want it. But Ivan Carmichael said it best. He said it took 300 episodes for him to be able to not be embarrassed by himself, and 700 before he was truly inspired by himself.
Wow. I'm a long way from 700.
Yeah, but I mean, this is, it's honestly more about not quitting than anything.
Yeah.
And not being afraid of criticism getting better.
Yeah.
You're not on here spreading negativity. So I think you'll be rewarded. Yeah. If you some podcasts thrive off of negative news.
I know.
And I don't like that. Personally.
It gets the views.
It does. But I feel like anybody can talk negative about anything.
Yeah.
Everybody's made mistakes. People are like, oh, I'm, this and that, and they talk negative, but then they talk about being maybe they're a Christian or whatever.
Yeah.
And then it's well, if you're a Christian, there's people who've done all kinds of things, or have gone to prison and they've gotten incarcerated, and then they change their life and they change. Where's the second chance there? If you're not, if you were just, I don't know, I when I was a kid, I used to sell drugs and shit.
Yeah. Yeah. Oh, trust me, I've been there, done that. I get that, and it's, I don't know, I feel like a lot of those podcasts that are out there and they thrive off of the controversy, off the negativity, they have success. They ride the success wave to where they have that that big thing.
But they have no true fan base, and they have but nobody stays with them, and they make money. They make a lot of money, but then they don't, there's no legacy. There's no true effect. There's also kids watching this stuff,
right?
Which I personally I look. Everybody's got whatever they do in their personal whatever, right? But if you're on a public thing and there's people watching, it's I get it. You could say oh, that's bullshit or whatever. Oh, I don't want to cuss too much or whatever you're saying. But you should have some sort of, okay, this is where I draw the line.
Yeah, that's my thing on here. I was actually just talking to another person who I'm gonna be having as a guest tomorrow. And I was saying, I do cuss on my podcast, but that's because that's the way I express myself.
Yeah. That's
it's not for a controversial take. It's not for this. Right. It's because that is how I'm able to get my point across. And sometimes that's a word that comes to my mouth.
Right.
Gary Vee does it.
Yeah, using that as an example was not really meant to be that. You know what I'm saying?
Right.
I'm saying imagine if it was you're talking about explanative.
Yes.
So for me, I don't do that personally. It's not me.
Right.
People who know me I've known since high school.
Yeah.
And I have a conversation with, I'll probably talk to them a lot more loose, right?
Right.
But, it's not I'm going to do that, everywhere.
Yeah.
And so I guess that is, I I guess that could be masked, right? Like in a way, right? But like it's only because truly who I am is like, okay, now there's potentially kids watching, right?
Right.
If I'm in a room with adults, it's different than if I'm in a room with kids. And,
Right.
you know, like it's just I definitely am more about like one of my big things I want to do is I feel like I'll be really truly successful. Like at like whatever point in my life where I'm like giving back to communities, helping underprivileged youth. Like those are things that like I know this is why I'm gonna make it far, because like my ultimate goal is to give back, because there's like things that people just overlook and they live their life and they don't care, and then there's like people who are struggling and there's like real stuff that's suffering, and it's like I'm trying to do good. So I honestly hope that whatever happens, like I build good karma now, so that I can actually like for the rest of my life be like giving back, helping people.
Right.
So I want to build this thing like and do all this and make all this money so that I can actually give back. Like I'm not gonna just hoard it. Like I'm not. I might have a nice car, nice place. I'll travel and I'll definitely do fun things. No doubt I'll like go out and I'll have like a party or something. Yeah. But like that doesn't mean I'm not also gonna give back and help people and do good things.
You're allowed to enjoy yourself.
Exactly. Like there's nowhere it says like you can't have fun.
Yeah.
Right?
I mean, Joe Rogan honestly says the best. I know he's talked about the money that he makes and stuff. And he's freely like, yeah, I spend my money. I have fun with my money. Obviously, we know that he's not like a bad dude, or he's not like this evil guy because he spends his money. He makes money. Like, you're allowed to spend the money that you make, but it's those people that don't use it, that have all this excessive money, but don't use it for the right thing. And honestly, that's why I'm nowhere near like wealthy, quote unquote, or financially successful or anything like that. But I've learned one of the biggest things with money is a tool, and what you get out of it depends on how you use it. Mm-hmm. And I've had a very similar outlook with you. I want to be able to literally spend one night going on GoFundMe or something, and okay, yeah, here's $1 million to like 20 different people that need surgeries or something, or underprivileged things, and like people that were kids that were in my situation when I was younger.
Yeah. So I mean, that's the whole point of like, it ties back to like wanting to be a motivational speaker, wanting to put good content out there. Like, I don't, I needed to transform myself before I had like so many things I had to transform myself. Like that's what people don't get. Like, I had John Malott on. This was like, I related to him the most. He's like, even though I didn't have like the same things, like he definitely like, he went to jail a few times and some things happened. Justin Mercer does the Successful Misfits podcast, and everybody on there is like from felon to millionaire, whatever. Yeah. And so it's like, I like that idea that people can change. Right. Like this is something that's stuck with media, that's annoying about media, is that people can change. People can like do better in the future. So I think that's something that I also want to like help change the stigma behind, because right now it's all this like sticky putty on the wall. Like, how can I just like, oh, this person. It's like, where's like the decent, like, where's like the, like, let's bring it back to like, just like traditional, just like, I'm not talking like extreme, strict conservative or non-strict or liberal. It's like, what happened to just normal human, decent, like conversations where like, let's talk about this. Oh, okay. How about this? Oh, okay. You messed up there. Oh, this is good. This is bad. Like, it's like a balance, Right. I don't think we have to be like extreme one way or extreme the other way. I think we could all be balanced in the middle, and I think that'd be a lot better for everybody. So as far as like podcasts, bringing the positive stuff, like that's why I do it. Yeah. That's why I do it. And then as far as like the monetary and the gain, I get so much just from the guests. Like, honestly, I don't care if I ever make money off of it.
Honestly, that's how I am. I'm able to build a relationship and build a conversation with somebody that it's not just like a 5-minute conversation in the elevator. I get to sit down with them and really talk to them and really build a relationship with them, which for me is extremely rewarding. I'm learning from everybody I have on, from every walk of life, and that to me is everything. For me, I get to learn firsthand from somebody firsthand in a thing with whatever they're in, and that's more valuable. Now, knowledge is the most valuable thing you can have, aside from time. But that's one of the most amazing things about doing this. You were talking about this transformation. Like, you used to be an angry kid, and you went through this big transformation. I relate to it a lot because like 2 or 3 years ago, I went through a huge transformation myself. Something that before that I was like, oh, I'm an adult. I'm in my early 20s. Like, yeah, I'm a grown up now. I didn't realize that I was the farthest thing from a grown up or from grown or from an adult. And it took going through this massive change to really start understanding the real priorities and the real good aspects that you need to focus on. What triggered that kind of change for you? What did you learn from that change?
So I attribute this in a lot of my podcasts. I say I went through a program called Landmark Education, and I was talking to even some of my podcast guests know what it is. A lot of people go through it, and I actually got an email from them today. Funny, but they have this thing like it's this program. People call it a cult, whatever they want to call it. It's like I used it for what it was used for. I'm not still there. It's not like my life, but like for a year and a half, like I went through all their programs. And I learned, like, I got through a lot of things that I was holding in. And I realized that all new learning is stopped by trauma in the past. So you have to first get rid of that. Your trauma in the past is tied to the feeling of how you interpreted it to your self-worth and who you are, even though it was an action or item in that moment. So if you did something and you dropped this, like if I dropped this on your camera, on your equipment right now, and then you're like, I hate you blah, blah, blah. I feel bad, and then now I think like, and I'm a kid, I don't know how to process that. I get older, and now everywhere I go, I'm scared. I'm like, I don't want to, oh, there's a drink right here. I don't want to touch that. I don't want to do anything because now I'm afraid of every single little thing because now what's the effect that that's going to have? Like if I'm worried about that, how am I focused on anything else?
Right.
So, I went through the whole transformation, like that aspect, because like I needed to get past that and I needed to grow as in the future and I needed to be able to absorb new knowledge. And I couldn't do that if I was afraid of every little thing around me. And my instant reaction to everything was I'm going to be like irritated or angry. I'm going to get agitated. Or I felt like neglected or rejected. That was a big one. Like, oh, I felt rejected. And that, like, for me, like, I'm this short guy that's like short man syndrome, whatever, and I'm just like, I'm going to start, like, that's when I started doing this whole martial art thing. I was like, I'm not going to get bullied no more or whatever. So it's like anything that happened, I was like upset. But nothing I ever said did I ever really mean. But did I say things that I shouldn't have said? Like, probably. I'm sure I did. And, I regret those things. But, like, at the end of the day, that was me as a kid, got arguments with my parents, arguments with my friends, whatever it is, like cut people off. It's like, but that's not me anymore. I haven't had that anymore. So once you get past that stuff, then you can become an entrepreneur. But if you don't have that, like, how are you going to be an entrepreneur? You're like, you're still worried about all these things around you, these items, and like, this is life and this is a situation and you're bumping it and you're worried ever since I knocked over this and I'm the person who did this. Like, I'm the person who ruined, Unmasked podcast. So it's like, or Alex's podcast. So it's like, I had to like get past that. That's the whole transformation aspect. Once I did that, then I moved on. Then I got like really excited because, that's why when you ask that question, do you live in the present? Of course, because I don't hold myself to that anymore.
Right.
I like have to remember that I let go of everything, like that. I'm like, okay, what am I holding on to right now? Because what have I done? Like now, all I've been doing, like focusing on the future. Everything in my future is like clean, bright. I'm not gonna pretend that I might not like knock over somebody's vase and now I'm like in the future these things could happen, right? But you contain yourself and you discipline yourself because human nature is that you're never gonna be perfect. So in the future, like, there's a possibility something happens. I could crash into somebody and like I feel bad or something. I wouldn't want that to happen, God forbid it. But these are things that could happen. But if I'm always holding myself to a standard, if I'm holding myself together, I'm being accountable, I'm working on myself, then I don't think I'm gonna have those same things that I've had in the past. And that's why I don't have that like worry about like it's my anxiety. Like if I remember that, then I'm not gonna be I'm not going to be holding myself back in the future because of that, you know?
I like that. Wow. A lot of stuff I resonate with, but I don't I didn't it's not like something that immediately comes to my brain about it. But wow, I'm definitely gonna have to like replay that whole bit again and continue to absorb that because that was very insightful. I tend to do that a lot. I'll go back through like in my editing thing and I'll just be like, I just want to listen to this what he said
Yeah,
again
yeah.
because I want to absorb different parts of it. I want to listen to
Oh, yeah.
different parts of it, and that's one of the best ways I learn from each of the guests that comes
Yeah.
on. Luckily, I have the ability to go back through and instead of like, oh shit, what did they say? They said something that was really insightful and really awesome. I can't remember, but now I get to go back and be like, oh, and even see the way that you said it, see the passion in the way you said it, and so that's one of the also the most magical things about doing all this.